listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static. In today's episode, we have the first of a handful of brand new social media episodes. You asked us to start out by looking at TikTok, so that is just what we did, and we hope to answer the burning question. Is TikTok a winning social strategy for insurance agents? Keep listening to find out the answer to that question and so much more as we discuss TikTok basics for insurance agents. Tina Lamoureux is joining me in the studio today. Thank you for joining me, Tina.
Thanks for having me.
So we held a poll a couple of weeks back, and we talked about how we were going to be getting into some social media tips for insurance agents. And TikTok won as the platform that our listeners wanted to hear about first. So that is what we are going to talk about today. The benefits of posting on TikTok for insurance agents, how to get started, what we've discovered in our interactions with TikTok, and hopefully give you enough information to decide whether or not TikTok is the right platform for you.
Have you created a business account before, Sarah?
I have not. We actually had to take our profile private. There were some incidents where people were not being kind about those videos. So we actually took a lot of our videos down. The account went private. So none of our TikTok is public. So no, I have not created a business account. Have you created a business account?
I have. So there's two different kinds of accounts. There's the creator account and there's the business account, and they're slightly different. I've created both accounts before. I've created a business account for my online business selling clothes. So I even used the TikTok shop a little bit.
Okay.
So that was an interesting experience. I'm no longer doing my small business, but I did learn some things with creating videos. Some of the differences with a creator account and a business account is I'm pretty sure a business account only posts public videos, while a creator account, you can choose to have them for friends only. So if you wanted to, I have the example of if you wanted to make a TikTok specifically for the people on your newsletter, you can insert the link and then only people who are on your list can view that video. So if you wanted to keep it a little more private, just for your clients or those who follow you, that's one way to do it. But if you want to grow your business and get more traffic, then a business account is definitely what you want to go for.
And I think anytime you're trying to get found online, the idea of the business account, there are reasons why they exist. They create them with special perks for businesses versus just those regular people, like me, who need to put the kibosh on any outside people looking and commenting on videos. I guess I'll start with the cons of a business account. One thing that I did see was that the sound clips are limited with a business account versus a creator account. I obviously don't have a business account to see, which clips those include, if it's, popular music clips, how that really works with that. But I would imagine, given the clip library that TikTok has, that there's still enough there that you would be able to find sound clips to be able to use. Or if you're really committed to TikTok, you would have outside sources that you would be able to find ways to add music to your TikToks. Like, say, if we would create that here with Ritter, we would use the music service that we use for all of our other videos and things like that. That was really the only con that I had seen as far as a creator account versus the business account. One thing that I did see that was kind of a pro and a con was that you still have that 1,000 follower threshold before you can add the link to your website. So that is something that I think is hindering if you don't have a huge following or you can't amass a following quickly. But it's a good thing, obviously, if you have that many people who are following along with what you're posting. And we'll get into what you post a little bit later, but assuming that you're posting content that connects with an audience, that's not necessarily a difficult thing to hit that 1,000 follower threshold. Did you see any other pros or cons or benefits, one versus the other, that you wanted to mention?
I have a few things, and I'll touch a little bit on the music. I believe the music for the business account is mostly copyright-free music.
Okay.
And I think I tried to upload a video using a song from outside, and it flagged it as this is copyright material.
Okay.
So if you have a business account, I would just be careful and just use the music that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have a library, YouTube has a library of not copyrighted music that you can choose from. So I would just definitely be aware of that, because they will either take your video down or take the sound away. And that's not really what you want to happen with your content. A few other things on the business account, you can schedule your posts in advance, which makes things a lot easier. There are also services like Buffer that you can schedule social media posts on a variety of different accounts from that website. But the business TikTok account has that ability to schedule them in advance. There also is an auto message that you can create whenever someone messages your account. So I'm not sure if that's locked behind a follower account, but what I would recommend is putting the link to your website there and maybe your email and phone number. So if someone does message your account, they can easily find other contact information for you. So those were two other things that I noticed.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I had here, definitely you touched on the ability to create a storefront. As an insurance business on TikTok, I'm not really sure that you would have much use for that. But the other thing that I had was the ability to have access to ads and analytics with the business account. Analytics are something that you really want to look at and pay attention to frequently, not necessarily for the number count of what you're getting, to see how many people are engaging, but what types of content they're engaging with. And then, all right, if you're getting more traction with posts on definitions or this kind of video or that type of content, you do more of what your audience is engaging with. And you can use those analytics usually pretty well to decide what your next pieces of content are going to be. And then, of course, as far as ads go, pretty much always with any kind of social media ads, sticking with advertising your business in general. Those are very helpful ways to get the name of your business out there to the audience that is on TikTok. But that in itself is something that probably segues very well into our next topic here, is that really, yes, you want to make that decision between a business account or a creator account. Most importantly, before you're creating any account, one of the things you do need to think about the demographic that you're selling to, and make sure that the demographic that you're selling to works with the demographic that is on TikTok. One of the things that I will say, I was surprised by not necessarily the younger demographic on TikTok, but that 10% of U.S. adults age 65 and older, this is according to Pew Research, had said that they had ever used TikTok. Not necessarily that they are creating content and putting it out, but that they are scrolling through the videos and engaging with that content. I thought that number would be lower than it was, but I will definitely say TikTok is probably not the platform that I would recommend if you are selling Medicare. What do you think, Tina?
So as you mentioned, about 10% are older, while the majority of their users are between 18 and, 20s, 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to target the older generation, it's probably not going to be super profitable to create content, but I was thinking if you're maybe selling other products like life insurance or ACA, that would definitely be a good topic to talk about. There are a lot of people going to be aging out of their parents' insurance. And honestly, a lot of my peers don't know anything about insurance. So I think it would definitely be a great way to get educational videos out there.
Right. And I will say a lot of my peers also don't know a ton about insurance. So specifically, if you really want the breakdown of demographics, about 62% of the age group from 18 to 29 has ever used TikTok. When you go up to the 30 to 49 age group, that number decreases to 39%. And then from the 50 to 64 age group, further decreases to 24%. And then, as I mentioned a little bit ago, 10% for that 65 plus age group. So I do think there is opportunity if you're selling those other products, like you mentioned, if you're selling life insurance, just starting the conversation about that and really getting that into people's heads earlier, getting the idea of, when you start looking for it, what you're looking at depending on what age and what stage of life you're in. But then also for the under 65, those who are aging out of their parents' insurance, or even just those who haven't had the opportunity to purchase their own insurance, maybe who don't really know or understand how the subsidies work on the different exchanges. There's a lot of educational content that you could be creating, even just with definitions, defining this is what a deductible is. This is what a coinsurance is. This is what a copay is. There's a lot of opportunity there. And again, not trying to say that there isn't value in putting Medicare-related content on TikTok. It's just when you're trying to decide whether or not you want to use these platforms, it is really important to know who your audience is and who is actually watching what you're putting out there, who's existing in these different social spaces. Tina, what do you have next on your list?
I have tips for getting started with creating content.
Okay. So what can we do if we're just starting out with our efforts on TikTok?
So I definitely want to preface this by saying that it's important to remember that when you're starting out, it's going to be rocky. Your videos probably won't look as polished as the ones you see on your For You page, and that's okay. It takes time. Most people you see with large followings and high-quality videos have been doing this for a while. They probably had a huge learning curve before gaining popularity and finding their own groove. So it takes patience and time to find your groove. One tip I have that you can do even before creating any kind of content is following other creators who are in the similar field or make content that you would want to create yourself. Of course, don't outright copy them, but view their content to get a sense of what their audience likes. If their business is similar to yours, do their educational videos do better than their vlog videos? Which videos are getting more likes and comments? Little things like that to be aware of.
Right. Use it as research. They call it market research for a reason. That's looking and seeing what other types of content are out there. You might get some ideas that you previously hadn't thought of.
Definitely. Again, before you even start, don't be afraid to branch out. As long as you're staying compliant, try out different styles of videos, vlog style videos like here's a typical day in the office or fun videos of your vacation. And as we mentioned earlier, educational videos like where you answer frequently asked questions from your client. So those are things to keep in mind when you're brainstorming ideas, starting out. When it comes to the actual making of the videos, TikTok has editing tools within the app. They also have an app called TikTok Studio that has even more features. It's a completely separate app. You can also use third-party apps like Canva or CapCut to edit your videos and then upload them to TikTok. Now, if this sounds super overwhelming, you could also hire a freelancer to help you edit videos, or even if you have maybe teenager children, they can help you with it as well. if you don't have the time to go through the learning process. Another pro tip is make sure you hold your phone or whatever you're recording on vertically for TikTok. We have a great episode for best practices for video calls. That episode has tips for lighting and sound that also could be applied to creating TikTok videos. So be sure to check that out as well. And finally, don't be afraid to be yourself. At the end of the day, your personality and your work ethic is what's going to drive people to your business. TikTok is just another platform you can showcase that on.
Right. That's an important thing. We talked about authenticity in our social media trends episode a few weeks back. And that is something that as you're putting out these videos, it's going to be pretty apparent if you have kind of this persona that you're putting on in a video. And then people come in and discover, well, that's not what you're really like in real life. There are a lot of, as you mentioned, different types of videos that you can do. I have a couple different examples here just pulled from some of my research and watching different TikToks. Like you mentioned, the educational videos. I think those are probably your best bet, mainly because there is such a big learning curve when it comes to just how we talk about insurance, the different choices that are available to people, depending on if it is that under 65 product or if it is a life insurance product. There are a lot of different options both ways. Those educational videos frame you as the expert, and they help to develop that trust before that person even walks into your business. So very good strategy to start out making educational content. There are a couple other things you can do with the content. You don't have to just have it strictly be, straight educational content. That's obviously not why people go to watch TikTok. There are other ways that you can incorporate some of the trends that are on TikTok. Now, obviously, there are some that are not going to apply to your business. Feel them out and see, okay, how could I spin this to work with my business or make it so that it applies to something to my industry? But there's certainly ways to incorporate some of those silly videos or trends into what you're doing. And there's actually a page where you can see the different topics and things that are trending on TikTok. So we'll be linking to that in the notes. Other videos I have on here, the POV videos, or as my daughter first called them, the POV videos. These are just videos that are from, as it says, a certain point of view. I try to explain to her that a lot of this is, pretending, acting, all of that kind of stuff. With a point of view video, you can really make it from any point of view. You can make it be funny. It can be dramatic. It can be absolutely silly. There's a lot of different things that you can do with that. You can search that hashtag on TikTok and kind of see what the vibe is and see how you might be able to create content that would fit under that point of view as an insurance agent during AEP. Two other types of videos that I don't know that we always think about. You don't necessarily have to use TikTok as a consumer-facing social platform. You can kind of do what we do with our Instagram account and use it for company culture. You also want to make sure that the content that you're posting there is not anything that's going to scare people away or be kind of leaning towards that unhinged social media personality. So you can use those for agent networking. If you want to be able to network with other agents, you can create content for that. Or even recruiting videos to try and recruit downline agents into your agency. So there's a couple different ways that you can utilize different types of videos. And the best thing that I would recommend is probably get on TikTok, scroll around, see what's there, and see what feels natural for you, what you gravitate towards most, and then how can you make that work in a business context that's not going to make your business look unprofessional. There are ways that you can post silly things without making your business look unprofessional.
I was looking at different company TikToks before our conversation, and many of them take a very lighthearted comedic approach, which I think is definitely something that people who go on the TikTok app are looking for. It's okay to be lighthearted and a little comedic, but as Sarah said, keep it professional. TikTok is definitely its own special place with special people on it. Another thing I wanted to mention is if you have any affiliate partners, maybe doing a collaborative video with them. If you're partnered with a financial institute, maybe they have their own TikTok page and you guys could feature each other, maybe get some followers circling between everyone. I think that's another good idea to just think about who you know and who's in your network and how you can make content with them.
So now that we talked about the different types of content you can create while you're making your videos, let's talk a little bit about length. Because TikTok started out as a short video posting app, and then gradually their videos got a little bit longer, now to the point where they allow users to post up to 10-minute clips. But the thing is, with a 10-minute clip, just remember the engagement that you're potentially going to get back if it's a 10-minute clip that you are expecting people to watch. I know, at least for me, that 10 minutes needs to be absolutely compelling. It has to have a good hook to get me in there and get me interested. But then the video also has to be pretty compelling in order to keep me around for a full 10 minutes. So the current recommendation is to still post shorter video clips that are in the 21 to 34 second range. I would say probably the best starting point would be aim for 30 seconds, especially if you're creating ad content. You want to stick to that 30 or 60 second requirement because that's the typical standard for ad length. But yeah, if you are posting it, whether you're creating it for ad content versus, just organic posting, try to stick to those shorter video clips and make them small, digestible, little bite-sized videos. That's what grew TikTok. That's what most people are looking for as they're scrolling through. And then kind of see, once you get into posting regularly and you're able to see some of the analytics, then you can kind of test out, they watch something a little bit longer. Maybe they'll watch something a little bit longer if it's like a definition of something that's really important that they need to know. But definitely would start out with the shorter video clips.
I was going to add, you could also split up longer form content into parts. So a lot of people do these are insurance definitions, part 1. So if someone is actually interested in part 1, they'll go to your account and look at part 2 and any other parts you have. And, you might get a follow. So that's another strategy you could use.
The nice thing about TikTok is that they highlight once you go into the profile, they will highlight the video that you just watched. You can click on the Just Watch button. It will scroll all the way down depending on how far down the video is on their feed so that you are easily able to navigate to those different parts of a video. Next up, I think I have compliance, which this is kind of something that I think you had on your list as well, Tina.
I just said stay compliant. I didn't branch out too much into that.
So I think the main thing to remember as you are posting on any social media platform, whether it's TikTok or anything else, is really that you want to make sure that you're being compliant. And the way that you do that is posting educational content, or you post about your business as a whole. You can have your information on there for people to contact you, but it's not really the place to be looking for leads and reaching out to others to contact them. It's a place to give the vibe of what your personality is like, what your business is like. And then if the person so chooses, they see your information, they see you talk about your business, they can contact you. And then you go through the appropriate channels of the permission to contact, you get your scope of appointment, all of those things that are required in order for a compliant interaction to happen. So definitely make sure you keep that in mind as you're pursuing anything on TikTok or any of the other social media platforms. So now that we've covered a lot of the basics of TikTok, I feel like I have to add this very, very important point here at the end, and it has a little bit to do with the demographics. TikTok's audience is so specific and so geared towards the younger population. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a reason to not use TikTok. But I do feel like I have to say that you shouldn't feel like you have to create a TikTok account just because you feel like you need to be on every social media platform. I feel like that was the advice a couple years ago when it was just, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and maybe Instagram. It was a lot easier to manage. There are way too many social media platforms out there right now to possibly be on every single one and do the ones well that you get the most engagement on. You're going to end up not using a whole handful of them. And the key really to any social media strategy is picking the platforms that really meet your audience where they are. And if that demographic is not using TikTok, then TikTok probably is not the platform for your business. One thing I do want to kind of talk about is going back to the demographics. When I pulled some of the stats from Pew Research, they have demographics broken out by men, women, race, household income, college, all of that. But the nice thing is they have it for the top social media platforms. And what I would suggest is to remember that TikTok is not the only place where you can post video content. So when you look at some of the other platforms that have video content, there are much higher adoption rates in all of the age groups that are on Facebook and on YouTube. And both of those platforms allow users to post short videos via Facebook Reels and YouTube Shorts. So you could post to all three of those, create content that, if you create it outside of the apps, that it doesn't have the watermarks on it, you could certainly post that content to all three. Or you can create it on one, post it to the other two, and you can see which of those platforms does the best for you. If you do look at the data that we have, and we'll be linking to it in the episode notes, the majority of people are on YouTube and they're on Facebook compared to TikTok, especially when it comes to those who are age 65 plus. Just to kind of go through the numbers here, we'll go through Facebook first. So ages 18 to 29, 67% of them have ever used Facebook. In the 30 to 49 age bracket, 75%. 50 to 64, 69%. And then the 65 plus is at 58% on Facebook. Going into YouTube, the numbers jump even more. 93% of those age 18 to 29 have ever used YouTube. 92% of those 30 to 49 have ever used it. 50 to 64, 83% of them have ever used Facebook. And as far as the 65 plus age group, 60% of them have ever used it. My parents have YouTube channels that they are now following that within the past year or two, they have found their niche for their hobbies on YouTube. So I think there's a lot of options that you can, if you want to create that TikTok level content, you can certainly create that content, but maybe you're just not posting it on TikTok. Maybe you're posting it on YouTube and Facebook where your actual audience is at.
I was just going to say there are different platforms and you can test to see which one you get more of an engagement on. I know a few people who are trying to grow their social media channels and they'll post the same content to TikTok and Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. And usually one gets a higher rate of views and comments than another. So it's really about your audience, where they are, what they're watching. Not to say you can't post to all of them, but it could be pretty overwhelming to try to keep up with all of that. So quality over quantity.
Right. And at the end of the day, I think the other important thing to remember is if hiring someone to do the social media for you makes sense, then maybe you can go through and have them dedicate the time to all of the testing and trying to figure out which platform is the best platform. But if this is something that you're posting and doing your social media strategy yourself, probably want to make sure that you are channeling your efforts into where they are best being received, and also making sure that you're not spending a ton of time on social at the end of the day. We did mention that we had looked at a bunch of different studies, and we have a couple resources that we'll be linking to in the notes. Tina mentioned our guide on kind of how to set up everything so that your videos look as pristine as possible. We will have those linked in there, as well as links to the different TikTok resources we mentioned, like the trending page. And then there is a guide from TikTok themselves on the top tips for making videos. So we will have all of those linked in the notes. Make sure you check those out. And Tina, just want to say thank you again for coming in to chat about TikTok.
Thanks for having me.
The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was researched and recorded by myself and Tina Lamoureux, with production by me, Sarah Ruppel. Podcast designed by Urban Rivera, artwork by Vivian Zhao. Follow along with us wherever you like to listen. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.